Harry, you've made your bed, now you have to lie in it. Their mother would love to bang their heads together and say, boys, grow up. Diana would be devastated to know that her boys were so far apart now. Will the rift be mended? No, it won't. Harry can't win, really, in lots of ways. He's always going to be the villain. He's cast himself as the villain. I feel her presence, and she's often in my dreams. I don't live in a mausoleum to Diana. I live in this world, and my life has changed as well. But you can never forget the people who touched your heart. And I will never forget her. Her colours are nailed to my mast for the rest of my days.
This is BBC News from London. Buckingham Palace has announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
I can't believe that the Queen has passed, even now. She was the beating heart of our nation, and we'd all live with her forever. And to lose her was, I think, it was like the tectonic plates shifting. Everything changed at that time. I miss her. Having known her and worked with her for 11 years, I stood beside her. I knew her. I knew her every move. I knew her intimately. And she was a good, kind Christian lady who will be sadly missed. You don't get people like that today. They are unique. And our Queen was a very, very special person. In fact, when I stood next to her, I used to tingle because I felt this is the nearest to divinity I would ever get. Because when we were feeding the dogs one day, we were talking about Winston Churchill's funeral, and she said she felt sorry for the guardsmen who carried his coffin because they were slipping on the marble floors of St. Paul's Cathedral, and she was worried about the guardsmen. And she said, you know, that coffin weighs half a ton, because there are two coffins, one inside the other, and one's lead lined. And she says, mine will be too. I said, oh, for goodness sakes, don't talk about that. She said, well, Paul, we have to talk about our mortality, because we all go out the same way. And she said, you know, I swore an oath before God in Westminster Abbey to serve my country for as long as there's breath in my body. And that's what I intend to do. That was 20 years, 30 years before she died. So I always knew that she would never abdicate. Her job was being Queen. Her job was public service until the very end. And you know something? She got out of her deathbed to say goodbye to one Prime Minister and say hello to a new Prime Minister. Then she went back to bed. And when she died, they opened her red box. Every single piece of paper was signed. She left no work unfinished. She did it to the very end.
As you know, I was unable to attend the awards last year as my grandmother passed away. As you also probably know, she would have been the first person to insist that I still come to be with you all instead of going to her. And that's precisely why I know exactly 1 year on that she is looking down on all of us tonight, happy we're together, continuing to spotlight such an incredible community.
I think all the family dearly loved our Queen, and they will all be remembering her in their own particular ways. Even Harry and Meghan in Los Angeles will be thinking about the Queen on her anniversary. The Queen loved Harry. She was very fond of him because he made her laugh. Unlike other members of the royal family, Harry actually just said it as it was, and the Queen found that very refreshing. I think that's why it came as a particular blow to the Queen when Harry left the royal family, because she didn't want him to. She wanted him to stay, and she tried her hardest to persuade them to stay. She even said to Meghan, you can continue acting if you like, continue your career. And if you find there's a problem, why not have Sophie Wessex as a mentor? She'll show you the ropes. Oh, and by the way, I'll take you on your first engagement to Chester. So the Queen was very gracious and very kind to Meghan, and what hurts me is the fact that bad things have been said recently about the Queen, about Camilla, about Charles and William and Kate, and I think it's unnecessary. The royal family do not like dirty laundry to be washed in public. Yeah, I think Harry and William will obviously be thinking of their mother. They always do on her anniversary. But they have another death to think about, their grandmother. And as they get older, they will lose other people around them. And that's what life's about. As our Queen so elegantly said, the price you pay for love is grief. And they're learning that now. Both Harry and Meghan are learning what grief is all about. It's just a sad, sad time for them that they can't share it together. Their mother would love to bang their heads together and say, boys, grow up. This is not what I wanted for you, not what I expected of you. So come on, get your act together and sort it out. And she's the only person that could do that.
As family, do you ever have disagreements about things?
Oh, yes.
Healthy disagreement.
Okay, the last thing you disagreed on, how do you resolve it?
I can't remember, they come so thick and fast.
Diana would be devastated to know that her boys were so far apart now. She lived for her boys. She called them my boys. Where are my boys? Her every waking thought was about her boys. And so now, if she was still here, well, it wouldn't happen now. She would have ruled and she would have pulled them back together. Unfortunately, there's no one strong enough to do that. So maybe when they are more mature, and maybe when life has passed by a little bit more and more water has gone under the bridge, maybe then they will come to a crossroads in their life when they realize, well, actually, we should be together. But we're not there yet. Not for a few more years yet. I'm devastated by that, by the coldness between William and Harry, because watching them grow up from little babies and being part of their world, knowing how close they were, knowing how tight they were, and especially after their mother's death, and knowing what a bond they had.
William.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, God.
I just can't believe that there's such a rift grown between them, one of Grand Canyon-sized proportions, which can't be bridged. It really can't. And the world speculates about, will they get back together again? Will the rift be mended? No, it won't, because too much has been said. They all live in different worlds now, pursuing different dreams and different ideals. There's a lot of drama in the royal family at the moment, and most of it's being caused by Harry. So I'm sure that at this sad time of remembrance of people passing, which should be a united time to unite the family, I'm sure Harry is thinking, there must be something I can do. And that's where the danger lies, because if he does go rogue and does something completely unexpected, which the royal family don't approve of or don't agree with, then he's in trouble again. And in a way, Harry is the prodigal son, isn't he? He's the one that's cast adrift and able to make mistakes in a very public way. Harry can't win, really, in lots of ways. He's always going to be the villain. He's cast himself as the villain, so he has to now play the role of the villain. You know, when you love someone in your lifetime and you lose them, you never really forget them, and you carry them with you for the rest of your days. And Diana for me is one of those people because we were very close. It just so happened that she was a princess and she belonged to all of you, but actually she didn't. She belonged to me because I was always there at the end of the day and I was always there to pick up the pieces. So I was a very lucky man to be in that position. And yeah, we relied on each other. So when that anniversary comes on the 31st of August, if I'm in London, I will go to our little church. There's a church on Kensington Church Street called the Carmelite Church. And we have a little altar. As you go in the front door, on the right-hand side, there's the altar to St. Jude. And we'd often light a candle there when we were going down the high street. She'd say, let's light a candle. So we'd light a candle there. When I light the candle there now, I think of her, of course, and she would be giggling, saying, you know, this is the saint for lost causes, don't you? And she says, you and I, we're lost causes. I said, no, we're not. We're not lost causes. So I light a candle to St. Jude. Incidentally, the same altar is in St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York. And whenever I was in New York, or whenever she was in New York, we would light a candle at the altar to St. Jude. We know exactly where it is, and every time I go, I still do the same. So you see, Diana's still with me, and she's still with me in lots of ways. I feel her presence, and she's often in my dreams. I don't live in a mausoleum to Diana, I live in this world, and my life has changed as well. But you can never forget the people who touched your heart. And I will never forget her. Her colours are nailed to my mast for the rest of my days.
That's beautiful. So do you sort of take time to remember her?
Yeah, I will. I'll take a quiet time. I'll probably walk around my garden and try and find a rose somewhere, and she'll be with me. Never far away. So remember, when you lose someone and you love them dearly, you just have to think of them, and they will be with you.
What kind of things in your everyday life would remind you of her?
If I smell her perfume, Faubourg 24 by Hermes, I think of her, of course. If I hear a slight intake of breath, someone beginning a sentence and they start it with, yes, I think so, that is her. If I hear a high-pitched giggle, I'll turn around and think, is that her? So simple things in everyday life still remind me of her. How can you not forget such a unique, inspirational, incredible human being? How can you not? How can the general public not forget that? How could I forget that? Impossible. So she's here subtly in lots of different things, whether it's a picture, whether it's her cufflinks, whether it's something she said to me, whether it's a note she wrote to me, or whether or not I was tidying out a cupboard the other day and I found a little knitted cardigan which she bought my son when he was 1 year old. Still here. All those memories are still here, because if we don't have a string of memories like that, what's our life about? That's what our life's about. It's a string of memories. I have incredible memories to string together, and they're all still there, still there.